pick back up, and I do have one more shadow to complete that I see now. It's this huge one under her neck. Don't know I missed it, but we're gonna get it. And then we're gonna move on to the lights in this area. So I'm gonna go back and reestablish my skin tone on my palette. Clean my brush and get my purple and my green. People tend to be pretty doggone neutral through the neck, so she's gonna get pretty gray under here. But we need those grays in a portrait because it's gonna be those grays that make the colors look so nice. If it's all color, that's not gonna work. There we go. And when we really get into the lights, I will probably push the color a little bit because that's just my personality. Now, also, what I am painting, what I'm doing as I paint these shadows, and this is very important, I probably should have said it earlier, is that shadows describe the form. Without these shadows, which is why she is lit the way she is lit, without these shadows, we would not have form to do a painting. So that is why the light on her is relatively strong. You can do softly lit photos, softly lit paintings, excuse me, but they're a little bit more difficult. She's got a little bit of color here underneath the neck, a little warmer, so we're gonna get a little bit of that in. So the lights, I was saying, describe the shadow describes the form. All right, so we need these shadows so that we can see what's going on with Alicia's face. Without the shadows, what you kind of get is more that portrait-y light, which is very flattering, but it doesn't necessarily work for artwork. And I don't know if you guys can see, but I'm using, right now I'm drawing kind of this shape in here between her nose and her mouth. And I'm gonna ask you to bring your head down a little bit, Alicia. A little bit, a little hard. There we go, that's about where we were. So to make sure that I get that shape correct and get the top of her lip where it belongs. There we go. And I really thought that I had gotten that correct before, but so goes it. I think that is pretty decent. So now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of start in on our lights. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in on my darkest lights, if that makes sense. So for me, they're going to be these areas here in her eyes, these areas here, kind of that are in shadow underneath her neck. And so here it's a little bit more neutral. I'm gonna put a little, maybe a little green in there to kind of knock it back a little bit. Not too much of the purple, because that purple is a very strong color. So what I'm doing when I do that is I'm kind of mixing in the complement of the color. So when I put that in, what we're going to get is the shadow, because her ear is here. So this is the shadow under the ear. So there is a definite process to this, working from dark to light. Some folks do not have the patience. But what I try to tell my students is, you know, if you do everything in order, you're never going to have problems. I won't say you're never going to have problems, but they won't be so major. And it's like when you want to go and you want to put that highlight in there, it is like eating dessert first. It's just not good for you. So you see I put that in a little darker, and now I see that it's a little lighter. Maybe not that much lighter. I'm going to brighten it up a tad. I'm bringing the stroke from the front to the back because there's more light here than there is here. So I can kind of, maybe not. Maybe not. Let's see, I think it should be the opposite. And we'll bring it forward and let it get softer as it comes to the front, because her ear is actually closer to the light. There we go. So right now she's got a little bit of football player neck, but we'll work on that a little bit later. So we're going to get a little bit more nice, clean skin tone, and I'll drag it over here. I'm actually going to work in here because I think it's a little darker. Sometimes when I'm working on these portraits and I'm doing kind of all these shadows, you know, you get into them and the subject begins to look like a prize fighter. All the shadows in. But you just have to have faith in yourself and in the process. So we're continuing that shadow around underneath the eye, but I see a lot more color on this side. Now I work with my brushes from large brush to small brush, and I try to keep using the large brush for absolutely as long as I can, even if I'm turning it sideways. That's not the correct color, is it, everybody? That's a little nicer. One thing that I think is important that I sometimes get when I work with my students is that a lot of times they will mix a color and put it down and they know it's not the correct color, but they will keep going with that color. And I'll walk over to the easel. I say, well, do we think that this is the right color? And they'll say no. Then I'll say, why is there so much of it on the canvas? So if you mix the wrong color, have the courage to go back and make that change. Nobody's perfect. I'm sure you guys out here looking at this painting can see, flaws and mistakes, and nobody's perfect. So you just have to have the courage to go back and fix those things that, it's one thing if you can't see it, but if you can see it, you have to have the courage to go back and fix those things that you know are wrong, because that's the only way you're going to get better. Don't be afraid of destroying the work that you've already done. It's not magic. It's a culmination of your skill, and you can easily do it again. I'm squinting to decide whether I want to go this direction or that direction. And I think where I'm going to start maybe is down on the chin. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I try to make my brush strokes follow the form. So her nose, has a certain shape, but depending on what I'm painting, am I painting underneath the nose? Am I going around the nostril? What direction am I going? I'm going to paint in a way that tries to make my strokes describe the shape. My attitude is that you're going to make strokes, they're going to go on the painting, they might as well go in a direction that helps to describe the form, so that they can do two things for you at the same time, not just cover up the canvas, but also describe the form of whatever you're painting or whoever you're painting. And we are going to make that a little bit more neutral. So now we're kind of getting to those brighter areas in the painting. And this is kind of when we begin to see a little bit of the payoff. Looking at this, it looks like I need to go here first. I'm trying to get these shapes correct, and I'm trying to look, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I look more at the model than I do at my painting or at the canvas. At the canvas or at the palette, excuse me. And get a little smaller brush because I think they were into a smaller area. You guys see that I'm backing up a little bit so I don't get hyper focused. I'm going to bring a little bit more color into what it is I'm doing here. You know, you guys you'll get your own kind of taste into what kind of brushes you like. These are pretty soft brushes. When I was younger, I used to paint with more of a bristle type brush. And those are nice too, especially when you want a lot of texture. Now I've gotten used to these and I stick with them. My Princetons. But I will tell you, sometimes I paint on boards, which I love. And these brushes will not last that long if you're painting on a board. She's kind of rosy in through this area. I'm going to try to get a little bit more of that color in. I'm trying to get this color correct in through here. I don't know if that's close. Close. I really believe in talking to yourself, cheering yourself on. You do something nice, step back, take a look at it, admire it. Especially if you're working in your studio by yourself, you know, who else is going to tell you you did a good job? She has a little bit more structure in her cheek than I have in my painting, so I'm going to try to add that in by adding hopefully a little bit of light right here. Need a little bit more. That's a little better. It's a little better. Now we have a few little spots kind of to get filled in. I think it's important when you get to this point where you feel like you're almost done with all the big major things and you're kind of getting your little holes that you may have left, that you make sure not to start rushing. And even though they're just like little spots like here and here and these little things here, you want to kind of try to address them, give them the same respect that you gave the rest of the painting, because they'll show. Now here, her nostril's going to go in this area. But I'm not going to put that nostril in. It's going to go in a little later. I'm going to try to stop manhandling my brushes before I break one in half. All right, now we're going to go a little smaller and get a little bit more detail. We're going to deal with the whites of the eyes and maybe bring this area up a little bit more. And there's really nice color lips that I don't have yet. So we're going to do that, and that is always fun. I'm going to place my hand on the palette, and I'm still, you see I'm still holding the brush kind of the same way. I'm still working with strokes. I'm just trying to get a little bit more exact with the shape of her mouth. So I'm raising her mouth a little bit. That is a mistake that I often make, too much of a distance between the nose and the mouth. So I tend to be on the lookout for it. And true to form, I did it again. So you guys will, as you paint, I think it's important to kind of take stock of what it is you do and how you do it. And if there's something that you tend to do, look out for it. If you tend to stretch your drawings, or if you tend to make them too squat, you know, look out for it during the course of your painting, because that's the only way you're going to get better. If you know what, that's my thing, that's what I normally do wrong, you know, just stay on the lookout for it so that you can at least fix it, or maybe one day not ever do it again, which is clearly the goal. All right, so I think this is probably a good time to give the model a break, and we'll come back and we'll try to bring it up a little closer to finish.